Hey folks, Milkman Al here with yet another mediocre one take on a weird build guide for you to get through Settlers 3.25 Plus. Ooh, the reset of the league. Um, so like the Decay build that I posted a couple days ago, this is just sort of an oddball build that, maybe you can keep things a little bit fresh instead of using your Lightning Strike Slayer to just burn through everything. But this is a Voltaxic Rift Lightning Arrow Lightning Conduit Occultist. Um, it is definitely not a good league starter. There's a lot of very specific gear that it requires, and it is fragile as hell in its current state. So you'll notice that this is more of a concept, sort of proof of concept thing than an actual guide. Um, this character definitely could be min-maxed quite a bit and needs some improvement from its current state to be more survivable and viable, basically. But anyway, it's food for thought. It's fun. I wanted to spend a little bit more time on this one than I did with my Decay build because there is so much going on with this, and there's a lot of like weird little ideas and concepts that have kind of popped up as I went along. So, as you can see, there's a bunch of like circles and weird crap on my skill tree here. So we'll just kind of start off with how this build works. So first off, it is, let's see if I can get all of this in one breath. It is a low life Voltaxic Rift occultist that depends on high values of shock and supreme ostentation, so it can actually use its gear. So we have this Elegant Hubris Jewel, which I'm covering up a little bit. But anyway, it's Caspiro 12,800 is the one that you need. Nothing else will do, in my opinion. I mean, I guess there are some other ones that will be okay, but you want this right here because. Oh, and also there's charge stacking. There's also a charge stacking character, as if there wasn't enough going on. This gives 10% damage per power charge, 10% per frenzy, 10% per power, and there's another 10% per frenzy. And I think we have like 9 or 10 power charges, so that's like 100% damage for each of those. And then here, there's two nodes that are 80% chance to avoid being shocked. And we will use a Storm Shroud Jewel, which I believe is up here. Yeah, Storm Shroud to make that, translate that to being immune to ailments. So if you're really trying to min-max and get rid of this point, you just need 20% chance to either avoid ailments or avoid shock specifically, and you can get rid of that. We've also used an impossible escape here, and I believe that's solipsism is the default keystone that's there, but impossible escape for solipsism, so you can allocate these points without all of these dead passives here. And this one that isn't inside the impossible escape just happens to be super useful. So that's nice. So this is a pretty good use of, I guess it's two jewel slots, and the, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points. Passive points? 9, if you count that one. Because we've got Supreme Ostentation, you can, which, in case you didn't read that there, you just ignore attribute requirements. So you can just put tattoos everywhere. I have obviously not done that because I've got some, a whole bunch of intelligence nodes that are unused. But that's a nice way to kind of get some resistances and otherwise just, free your gear up a little bit. As for the tree, you'll notice that I've got Pain Attunement here, so this is a low life character. And we're using Petrified Blood and kind of trying to take advantage of life recoup to mitigate the damage over time that Petrified Blood converts the incoming hit damage to. So Light Eater here, we've got that for instant leech and energy shield leech from the Lightning Conduit. Power charges, like I said, it's a charge stacker, got some mana reservation. This cluster here is actually probably more for more jewel slots than anything, but it's also nice to get, where is it, Touch of Cruelty, so the enemies take an extra 10% damage. This is an important node to have, so 10% more damage for 1 point is huge. You'll notice that bosses have energy shield pretty much universally, so that's just 10% more damage against bosses. What else? This is energized armor, So since we don't have any attribute requirements at all, I've chosen to lean into armor. And if you don't have this Supreme Ostentation, it's going to get really difficult to equip the Voltaxic Rift bow, since the dex requirement is 212. So you kind of have to skew over this way into the shadow part of the tree, or get some really fancy gear, and that sucks. So that's why I chose to do this. Go Supreme Ostentation, even though it does hurt you on the energy shield front and life front a little bit. But since there are no gear requirements, you can wear super heavy armor without any problem. Survivability wise, armor is, like I was saying, kind of what we're leaning into here. So I have 31,000 with flasks up. That could be better, I guess, but isn't too bad for an occultist. Unfortunately, what you see here is life is not great. Where I'm trying to compensate for that is recovery. So recovery for this character is really good, like really, really good, but it needs to be better. And the way that we get it better is figuring out this unreserved mana piece here. So this setup here has discipline enabled, but I haven't been playing with discipline in the actual game because obviously I don't have the mana for it. So if you want to start getting real spindy and having some jewels that like reduce mana reservation or something else like an expensive enlighten, then you can probably do that, and that would increase your recovery dramatically because you can use a Watcher's Eye that gives you energy shield on hit, and you hit tons of times. You hit lots and lots and lots of stuff. So that's mega recovery. So you've got Leech, lots of life and ES recovery on hit, and also just a little bit of regeneration in addition to the life recoup. So that's your survivability mechanism, and it works okay in its current state. I think once you get discipline rolling, that would be much better. That would help out a lot. So even though you only have 800 energy shield, that's going to be mostly full all the time. So with that, let's move on to items. So as I mentioned, this is Voltaxic Rift, so you're converting all of your lightning damage to chaos damage. And where this build really shines is, so this is the lightning damage here, and you get, or from Lightning Conduit, you get to that because you can have multiple sources of more shock effect. Or, well, I guess it's not technically more shock effect. So you have that mod that says hits with this weapon shock enemies as though dealing 300% more damage. So you have that. Lightning Arrow also has a multiplier. And then if you throw in the Overshock, or what is it, Overcharge? Overcharge. The Overcharge support gem. Pretty much everything gets shocked all the time. So I will show you what I'm talking about here. So shock, where is shock? There we go. Oh no, that's ignite. I don't care about ignite. I care about shock. So if you go in here to the shock calculation thing, took me a second there. So this is kind of tough to see, I'm sure, but you can see the like levels that everything is shocked at. So you see that pinnacle bosses there are shocked at like basically you don't have to do a lot of damage to get 105% shock. That's what I'm saying. So like I shock as though I'm doing 18.3 million damage, and you only have to do 6.3 to 105% shock the pinnacle bosses. So everything is 105% shocked. And with Lightning Conduit, you get more damage via having shock effect. So you get that 24% more damage 21 times because there's 105% shock effect. So Lightning Conduit is triggered from Asenath's helmet. So every time you shoot Lightning Arrow, basically, you get a Lightning Conduit proc. So it triggers a lot. One way to make this trigger more and more widespread would be to get faster attack speed, one. And you will see that one way that I've done that is to have attack and cast speed while focused, which is nice. So you just get 49% more attack speed, or excuse me, increased attack speed while focused. That makes me fire a lot faster. But also Pierce. I need more Pierce. I have one instance of that on gloves. You could get that as an implicit, but I believe that's in the same place as the Chaos Damage Leech does life, and I would rather have the Leech, the instant Leech. That's pretty important. More projectiles would be another way to get this going. So Dying Sun is a very important flask to have, and actually now that I think about it, which I don't actually have on my character, but I'll put that in here just because. So you want Dying Sun. That's very important for this build. Otherwise, typical charge stacking stuff. Graven's Secret is nice to have, since we are, in fact, an energy shield build, and the minimum absorption charges helps you essentially recoup damage from elemental sources as energy shield. Just another survivability ploy here. Skills, you're really starved for gem slots, unfortunately, so I have all of my auras and my armor, and Lightning Conduit's in the helmet to proc from Azanaths, and then Lightning Arrow is the 6th link. And I've got a little bit of utility stuff. Really, I just want to make sure I hit, because accuracy is a bit of a challenge, and power charge on crit, and everything else is just to make sure it crits and shocks as much as possible. So, pretty straightforward there. Auras, Discipline, which I don't actually use, Wrath, Determination, Petrified Blood. Yeah. Fun. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with Relikesh's Impatience, which if you're watching a build guide of this complexity, you probably know this, but when it says count as having the maximum number of X type of charge, that means that you are always treated as such. So like even if you have no power charges on your character, you still get the 50% increased critical chance per power charge, always. Same with Frenzy, same with Endurance. These are ludicrously strong boots, especially for a build like this, and that's why I've chosen to use them. So body armor is just as much armor as I could get on something with mana reservation, basically. Ideally, you would have that armor as, an explicit mod on there, and you could craft spell suppression that would help survivability considerably, but I just didn't do that. Other places, perhaps you could get rid of Graven's Secret, losing the power charge, and then the frenzy charge that also costs you from Badge of the Brotherhood would be a little painful, but it would give you a lot more life, potentially more armor too. So that is a thought as well. But let's take it for a spin, shall we? Let's see how it goes. Oh, somebody wanted to trade me, I guess. That's not going to happen. So this is just a blue tier 16 map, so you can kind of see how it goes. I would not put it past me to die during this. Let's see how it goes. Let's see what happens. Always an adventure. So yeah, once again, please keep in mind that this is just a, well, let's do Delirium. Why don't we go get the mirror? This is just sort of a, proof of concept showcase, but you too can make this build sort of work mediocrely. So yeah, very slow walking speed, as you can see. But it does clear everything out pretty smoothly. Whoops. Let's change views. Don't you just love the one-take strategy? So, durability, like I said, recovery is very good. Oh, I died, son of a bitch. Just as I'm talking about durability being good. That figures. So, what I actually meant was recovery is very good. But, yeah, the durability is not, obviously. There we go. Here, let's get an example of mob clearance here. Not exactly exemplary, but again, this is a level 85 character with a bunch of kinks to work out, to say the least. So you can tell that those arrows kind of like stop when they hit stuff, so that only having one pierce is kind of a pain in the butt. It would make a huge difference to be able to pierce multiple enemies.
Approach, challenger.
So if you're gonna do this, I strongly recommend getting another way to pierce things. That would be really important. So I'll meander down to the boss to get you a view of how it does in single target situations. We'll fire up focus too. Stop the caravan, failed, oh no! So there's focus. Yeah, fire a lot faster when that's going on. So single target is okay. Like you saw, it's in this build, it's probably about 2.5 million, I believe. In the idealized version, it's about 3.5 million if you include lightning arrow. But yeah, just kind of a goofy build, sort of a cool thing to do. But give it a shot. See what you think. Let me know if you have any critiques, criticisms, ways to improve it. I'm all ears. So yeah, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. I'm Milkman Al. All my social stuff is down in the description, so hit me up. Thanks.